The format for this meeting is an interview with an alcoholic, the hot seat, inside the alcoholic studio. A speaker will be asked a series of questions that range from their personal story, the steps, relationship with God, and carrying the message. There are no right answers, just a fun and interesting way to share the speaker's personal insight. Our speaker for tonight is
Ed C., and I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Ed. Timekeeper, please allow 90 seconds per question. The meeting may run slightly longer. Members, please feel free to leave if needed. Speaker, please say done when you have finished your answers, or please say pass on questions you would prefer to skip. Are you ready, Ed?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's begin. 1. Please generally describe, in your own words, our basic text, the book Alcoholics Anonymous.
The basic text in Alcoholics Anonymous is, wow, I don't have an answer for that.
All right, 2, are you an alcoholic? And if so, what personally makes you an alcoholic?
Yes, I'm an alcoholic. I fit the description in the chapter more about alcoholism. Once I take a drink of alcohol, I cannot stop. I have a allergic reaction to it that I just have to have more. And it won't stop until I either pass out or go to sleep. Done.
3, what does the concept of anonymity mean to you?
Anonymity means be humble, and also it protects AA from any mistakes that I make. I'm not perfect, so anonymity is a way of keeping me humble that keeps me from my ego, so keeps me sane.
Please give us a brief sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit.
Wow. Brief description of my drinking career. At 18, I remember sitting at the bar looking at a fellow that was drinking shots of whiskey and wanting to drink him under the table. It was insane thinking. Then the next thing I can remember is I got tired of drinking beer because I would have to go to the bathroom so much. I would drink 2 beers and then it was like renting beer after that. So I changed to whiskey. And whiskey brought on the feeling that I was striving for a lot quicker, and I didn't have to go to the bathroom as much. And then I discovered Everclear, which brought it on 3 times quicker than whiskey did. The problem with that was I couldn't hit that mellow plane that I was striving for. I would overshoot the mark by several hundred yards. Done.
Alcoholism is described in the book as a fatal illness. What does that mean to you?
It means that my experience didn't feel human. I didn't feel like I belonged. Everything that happened around me irritated me. Besides the physical deterioration of your organs and everything, it was a mental disease of not caring about anything, not even caring about life itself. So I'm done.
Actually, it's probably the interrogation light that's doing it.
Maybe
It is kind of interrogating.
Yeah. Where were you on the night of the 16th?
Yeah, let's kind of dim
put
that,
that down
like
a
put
little
it
bit.
down a little bit. There we go. That's
Yeah.
good. That's nice and warm glow.
Yeah.
Am I at what are conditions? That's where I'm at, right? Number 6?
I don't know. Yeah, the last one was fatal illness.
Yep.
What are the conditions of your mind and body that accompany your alcoholism?
The conditions of my mind and body basically are the same thing that I just said. My body craved alcohol, and my mind was set that that's all that mattered in the world, was getting that feeling from alcohol, that serenity that accompanied alcohol, that everything was okay and I'm okay and I could fit in. Done.
In your understanding, what is the role of a sponsor?
My understanding of a sponsor is a person that has worked the steps, has gone through the steps, and can use his experience going through the steps to help another alcoholic work the steps, hopefully become a thriving member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Done.
How often are you in contact with your sponsor?
I'm in contact with my sponsor almost every day. We go to the same group, and if one of us missed the group, we get a phone call by 8 o'clock in the morning. We ask each other how we're doing. Sometimes we even hit a meeting in the evening together. So I'm in contact with my sponsor a lot. Done.
How have your sponsorship needs changed from early sobriety until now?
My emotions have calmed down quite a bit. In early sobriety, I had a lot of emotions that I wasn't used to and didn't know what to do with them. It was scary. It was stuff that I hadn't never felt. It was disturbing. I contacted my sponsor then a lot, probably 3-4 times a day. So, I'm done.
Have you completed the 12 steps? And if so, what is your suggested time frame for completing the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yes, I have completed the steps. I have done them several times. The time frame I like to see with my sponsees is very rapidly, but I try and not really force the sponsee into going quicker, but I nudge him into going quicker because I need to do it at his rate or God's rate, whatever works. If I don't think he's going fast enough, I kind of nudge him that we need to get going on this. Done.
In your own words, please describe steps 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. 1 is the realization that I'm an alcoholic and that I cannot partake of alcohol in any form. Step 2, that there's hope, that there's something that will give me the strength to stop this because I tried on my own and I couldn't do it. 3 is the realization that there is something that's out there that's stronger than I am. Even if it's a group for the beginning part of my sobriety, at least it was something. You know, I needed human contact at the beginning, until I could find a higher power. Done.
What does your unmanageability and self-will look like?
My unmanageability and self-will, that looks like I got a picture of a dragster driver in a dragster going 300 miles an hour, wanting to go faster. There's a lot of things that I think should happen that I try and make happen, and it just doesn't make sense. I try and control people, and I've kind of learned through the program that I can't change people. The only person I can change is myself. Done.
What is your concept of a power greater than yourself? And how are you turning your will and your life over to it?
My concept of a higher power is, although I've never seen it, I know it exists because He created everything on this world, and everything is in harmony with each other. It's like animals getting a drink of water or having food to eat. Everything kind of depends on each other to survive in this world. And it's so perfectly balanced that it is almost perpetual. I try and turn my will and my life over to Him because He created me, and He created me in a special way. He gave me a lot of experience that I can share with others and try and help them through some of the things that I've been through. Done.
Please briefly describe your experience with steps 4 and 5.
Step 4 and 5. Moral inventory was kind of tough because I had lied to myself about a lot of things that had happened that I thought were happening to me. Turns out I was causing most of the wreckage that was going on. I would, like I say, I would try and manipulate people to have them do what I wanted them to do, or what I feel they should have done, and they would push back and either get angry or not do what I wanted them to do, and that would irritate me. When I get irritated, I get mad, and it made things even worse. So that's kind of one reason I would drink, is to lose that conscious feeling of inadequacy, I guess. Done.
What does the exact nature of our wrongs mean to you?
The exact nature of our wrongs. I came to an understanding that a lot of times the exact nature of my wrongs weren't exactly the way I thought they were. They were actually a little different than I thought they were. Turns out most of the time I caused all of it. So I'm done.
Please briefly describe in your own words steps 6 and 7.
Once I discovered what my shortcomings were, which are many, most of them have to deal with the first part of the word being self. I prayed to my higher power and asked Him to help me through this, that I didn't like being like that anymore. I don't think He's ever removed all my character defects, because I believe that He wants me to keep some of my character defects so I can help other people with them. They're a lot better than they were, my anger, my self-righteousness, my self-will, much better. So, done.
What are some of your character defects, and are they being removed?
Self-righteous, self-willed, ego, anger, resentments. And I've noticed that my anger is a lot better than it was. Don't get me wrong, I still get angry, but I can feel it coming on and I can catch it before it explodes. My other character defects are a lot better also, but every once in a while I still try to take control of my life, and usually things start getting messed up again. So I have to back the bus up and let him run the bus for a while. Done.
Please briefly describe steps 8 and 9.
8 and 9. 8, I wrote down all the things that I had, where I'd hurt other people. Come to the realization that it was my fault that most of that stuff happened. Some of it was not my fault. How am I trying to put this? It was more or less a situation that I perceived it as being my fault. So once I had this list of the things that I had done to other people, I took on the task of meeting with them and explaining to them that I was totally in the wrong. I regret that I had done these things, and if there was anything I could do to make it right. It was a kind of a surprising experience. Pleasantly surprising. Done.
Why is it important for you to straighten out your past?
There's a book out called Drop the Rock. Although I tried to forget all these things that I did to other people, they still haunted me subconsciously, I guess. The book Drop the Rock it's kind of like all these things I did to other people. I would throw them in a bag and put them on my shoulder, and I'd try and swim across the lake. And trying to swim with a bag full of rocks, once I started getting the rocks out of the bag, I learned that I could swim and enjoy life a little bit better. So it helped me understand that life is worth living. Done.
When you were actively drinking, did you drink whiskey in your milk?
I never drank whiskey in my milk, and I never put ice cubes in my whiskey or Everclear. Done.
Please briefly describe your experience with steps 10 and 11.
Step 10 and 11. I continue to take inventory, and as I'm wrong, I admit it. I try not to do no harm to anybody. I try and understand where they're coming from and not let it affect me the way it used to. And step 11 is during the day, especially in the morning and during the day, I will pray to my higher power and ask him for direction I also ask him if there's anything I can do for him. If he would remove my shortcomings so then I can better serve him. Done.
What does meditation mean to you, and how do you practice it?
Meditation to me is a quiet time where I can reflect on where my thoughts are going, what seems to be on my thought process the most, and if I'm not happy with it, then I need to note it so I can work on that. It also involves reading a prayer or a saying that helps me understand that I'm not in control and that I'm trying to get in touch with my higher power and what he wants me to do. Done.
Please briefly describe Step 12.
Step 12. As a kid, I was brought up in a religious environment. After a few years of going to church, I disliked it. I had left a bad taste in my mouth. I decided that I'd never enter a church again, or in my perception, if I never entered a church again, I had to leave God, my higher power, there also. I couldn't. That's where my higher power resided at that time, was in church. After doing the steps and having a couple amazing things happen to me that told me my higher power was still looking out for me, I was able to understand that religion and spirituality are actually two different things. My belief is religion is man-made way of worshiping a higher power, and spirituality is a person's way of worshiping a higher power. So, being he created me with all these experiences that I have from alcohol and from my character defects, I can relate those to another alcoholic, try and help him through the steps with these experiences that I've had. Done.
Can you share with us a spiritual experience you have had as a result of these steps?
The most amazing spiritual experience I had happened before I even started the steps. I went through treatment. After 30 days in treatment, I went into transitional housing, and they required that I go to a meeting every day, an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting every day. So about the 6th meeting that I went to, it was at a building where they had meetings morning, noon, and night. And one of the evening meetings was a big book study. And at this big book study, there was probably 30, 40 people. At this study, it was, we were reading the chapter to the employers. So the meeting started and people started reading a couple paragraphs and stopped and let somebody else read. And about 3 or 4 people had read, and they had stopped, and nobody started reading. The silence was deafening, It seemed to go on for probably 3 to 4 minutes and nobody read. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, come on, somebody read. And finally somebody started reading. I remember thinking to myself, it's you. It's me. I'm reading. I tried to stop, but I realized I had already started and I couldn't stop now. And the amazing part was, this is what I read. It's on page 147 in the To the Employers chapter. So this is what I read. After reading this book, a junior executive can go to such a man and say approximately this: "Look here, Ed." And when I read that, the whole group started laughing. I kind of laughed with them. And the funny part was, if somebody else would have read that, I probably would have got embarrassed and ran out the door. And I continued on it. It says, "Do you want to stop drinking or not? You put me on the spot every time you get drunk. It isn't fair to me or the firm. I have been learning something about alcoholism. If you're an alcoholic, you're a mighty sick man." And everybody started laughing again. And I'm sitting there going, whoa, he's talking to me. And what's the chances of going to a big book study out of all the pages in the big book, my 6th meeting there, being at that particular chapter, at that particular place, and nobody reading that part and I reading it? That was, I can't explain it any way else. That was God taking a sledgehammer and hitting me in the head. Done.
What is the message of AA, and why is it so important to carry this message?
The message of AA is you don't have to drink anymore. It's so important because I've been to a place in my life where life just didn't matter anymore. It was a mighty dark spot. I don't want people to live like that no more, especially if there's a way out. I searched for several years trying to find a way out, and I couldn't find it. This is the only program that worked for me. So, I'm Ed, and I'm an alcoholic.
Why is it important to put the welfare of others ahead of your own?
Because I am so selfish and self-centered and self-righteous that if I don't put somebody else's feelings in front of mine, I revert right back to wanting my way all the time. Having my way sometimes is okay, but most of the time it's not what God wants me to do, or my higher power. There's times that I wake up in the morning and think, I'll miss the meeting this morning. I have to just get up and strap on my boots and go, even though I don't want to. And usually when I do that, I have a good day. Done.
What are some of the principles you're practicing in your affairs today?
To do no harm. I try and make other people's lives more pleasant. Usually, if they ask me how I'm doing in the morning, I usually come up with a way of answering them that's kind of funny, so they'll laugh about it. Maybe a way of saying it that they never thought of. One way would be, somebody asks me how I'm doing in the morning, I'll say, well, I'm better than most, maybe not as good as some. And they kind of look at me kind of strange, but it makes sense. Done.
How do you determine or gauge the quality of your sobriety in AA?
The way I gauge my quality of sobriety is when I was early in recovery, somebody at a meeting said that they had a committee in their head. And at that particular time, I realized that I had something different in my head than a committee, because a committee is organized and has a proper way of doing things. I realized in my mind I have a cage full of monkeys. And when them monkeys are swirling around in my head, going a million miles an hour, throwing poop at each other and screaming and yelling and pushing each other, that's when I know if that starts coming on, I know I'm not spiritually fit. That goes away with my spiritual fitness. Done.
Why do you think alcoholics relapse?
I truly believe that alcoholics relapse because they miss something in their steps. I have a strong suspicion that, well, either they can't admit they're an alcoholic and they think they can drink again like a normal person, or they're not working with others and trying to help somebody else recover from alcoholism. That's the two basic things that I do that keeps me in the program and doing what I think my higher power want me to do.
Are you willing and able to sponsor other members currently?
I am sponsoring 2 people at this particular time, and yes, I am still able to do that. Done.
Presently, what is the most important activity in your recovery program?
The most important right now is my 2 sponsees. They have entrusted me with their lives, and I take that extremely seriously. I know where they've been, and I want to try and help them out of it. Done.
Would you please generally describe the purpose of the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous?
The 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous is how a group, it's like the 12 steps for the individual. It's a group's 12 steps that the way the group should conduct business. Done.
Can you give us some examples of meeting etiquette?
Meeting etiquette. Don't share twice. Don't crosstalk. Be respectful. Listen. Don't get up and go outside and have a cigarette during the meeting. Done.
What role models do you have in sobriety?
My role models in sobriety is my first sponsor. He took me to meetings and made time for me and listened to a lot of phone calls that, looking back at, didn't make a whole lot of sense. I have so many friends now in AA, and everyone's a role model to me in a certain way. There was one fellow individual, I remember he used to come to a morning meeting, and before the meeting he would sit in his chair and he would rock back and forth and clap his hands, and he was just happy all the time. He had something that I wanted. I wanted some happiness in my life. So he was kind of an inspiration for me. Done.
What advice do you give newcomers in AA? What advice do you have for newcomers in AA?
Okay. My advice to someone coming into AA is be open-minded, listen, find a sponsor, go through the steps as quickly as possible, and enjoy the ride. Done.
What advice do you have for old-timers in AA?
I'll try and do this respectfully. Let the newcomer share every once in a while. Try not to take up all the time telling your war stories over and over again. Listen to the newcomer and see if there's some way you can help him. Yeah, done.
Last question.
Okay.
Can you please describe what this experience was like?
It was nerve-wracking at first, but it got better. It kind of like chairing a normal meeting, except it keeps me in a straight path instead of wandering out in never land that people wouldn't understand what I was saying. So it was a good experience. Done.
Bravo, sir. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
your
Thank you.
contribution.
welcome.
Well done. Well done.
Was?
Yeah.
Okay.
From the old preamble, I wish to remind you that whatever is said at this meeting expresses our own individual opinion as of today and as of up to this moment. We do not speak for AA as a whole, and you are free to agree or disagree as you see fit. In fact, it is suggested that you pay no attention to anything which might not be reconciled with what is in the AA Big Book. If you don't have a big book, it's time you bought one. Read it, study it, live with it, loan it, scatter it, and then learn from it what it means to be in AA.